have a tale to tell. Sometimes it gets so hard to hide it well. I was not ready for the fall, too blind to see the writing on the wall. This will be probably the most testing piece covered in this show since I did the feminism piece a few years back. That pleasantly and surprisingly I received no end of plaudits for. Despite being critical of women and their role, 95% of the feedback was from females supporting that piece. This will dredge up a range of emotions also. And if you think it is about you personally, do your own shadow and inner work. If you are triggered, you haven't done enough shadow and inner work. It is an opportunity to see where you, the individual, are and at in terms of developing the self. This speaks to and about the collective, not personal. If you take it personal, it says much about yourself, and no amount of projecting at me will correct that trigger. It is internal, not external. So, a bit of background to this. Many of the disputes in social media groups, including our own, and more so my previous group, involved 90% of females causing the issue. And even if we factor out the honeypots, agency puppets, it still leaves a predominant number that is causing the division between themselves and others in the group. So why is that? Well, as an observer and not immersed in things, I'm able to see more and connect the patterns of behaviour easier. And it reveals definitive patterns, two of which are the most common causes of female divisiveness. My observations led me to write this piece and also to provide the solutions to correct it and the inherent reasoning as to how and why this has unfolded as it goes back in time and is brought into the now, and the current version of female is a far cry from the archetype it represents. The main reasoning behind this inner war between females is they do not trust each other. That is the common streak running through many females within our own group and is replicated elsewhere. Females are a different breed when a conflict arises than males. Males will square up to each other and sometimes will fight each other or tell the other to go and F themselves or similar cussing, and by and large it ends either after the incident or the next day or week. If they were known to each other, and it generally follows, there is an excuse of sorry about that, I was off my head on alcohol or drugs, or I was just having a bad day. But, and it's a big but, this does not apply to the female's conflicts. It rages on and on and on. Neither will shut up, neither will back down, and it becomes a fight to the death scenario. The female becomes the predator, stalking its prey for a very long time, and they will just not let go of what was generally a nondescript event or comment. The deep-seated predator mode kicks in and pursues its victim with a relentless passion, often for years on end. And this is most common in families. The female siblings rarely get on. They often just tolerate each other or never speak to each other, as neither will back down or call a truce. That is predatory behaviours, and it's not befitting the archetype of the caring, nurturing, compassionate, birth-giving mother. Many females in our own group suffered after the departure of Kim, as she exhibited such poor behaviours and actions in the video and the follow-up chat on MeWe. But why was that the case? Well, females felt Kim was the answer, and finally a powerful female acting in a feminine but also partially male-dominant way. And all was well until she shifted into a total male-dominant aspect of herself. The females were looking and thinking the Eve would return the balance of the female psyche. And then the common theme amongst leading female roles, they adapt the worst aspects of the male-dominant role of aggression, domineering, unbalanced ego and bullying. And this had a great psychological effect on the females in our group, and it still lingers on in some, as Kim was the great hope who then all let you all down. Some have taken on her current frequency, and that will not serve you well either, now or the future. And people must address that imbalance themselves. It is not anyone else's issue to deal with or fix. No one can fix somebody else, only the person themselves. The same was felt in the UK when we had Margaret Thatcher as the first female Prime Minister, but she went male dominant and the disappointment was palpable. Look at the lead females: Merkel, Hillary Clinton when she was alive, Pelosi, Feinstein, Albrighton, Alexander Cortez, Oprah, DeGeneres. All of them are not the traditional feminine aspect. All of them are male dominant. And the argument is that the female must do that to survive in a man's world. But the man's world is an illusion. 9 of the last 10 parents were females. Most of the covens were led by females. Most of the world's witches are females. Even Q mentioned similar to our show with the warning, "Watch out for the females of the male partners," suggesting it was the wives and not the husbands running the shows. Only in the Arab, Middle East and Asian regions are the females not playing the dominant hidden hand role. So how and why has this unfolded? Why do women not trust each other? Why are women so competitive with each other? Why are women so comparative with each other? Here is the underlying issue behind it all, and it goes back to the females mating with the gods, and subsequently attempting to wipe out their fellow man here. Many will say they would never sleep with a Draco in that form, but they never presented themselves in that form. It was the chiselled, strong and strength-based Adonis or Greek god type that they looked like. But inside the facade or mask lay the hidden reptile. For those who have seen the original V or Stargate series will grasp that better. Most people are aware that we have a part reptilian aspect to our brainstem known as the reptilian cortex. Here is a description of it, and let's see if it fits the pattern seen in most male-dominant females. The term reptilian brain or reptilian complex is derived from a long-standing belief within the field of neuroanatomy that the forebrains of reptiles and other small animals were dominant by these structures. And Paul MacLean suggested that the triune brain model, that the basal ganglia and a number of the surrounding structures within the base of the forebrain are responsible for, quote, species typical behaviours, unquote, which are present in aggression, dominance, territoriality and ritual displays. Species typical behaviours. Which species, you may ask? Aggression, dominance, territorial and ritual displays are all the traits of many of the Western and some Asian females today. Now, a term that is often used for these type of females is a bitch. And bitch is a slang word for a person, usually a woman. And when applied to a woman or girl, it means someone who is belligerent, unreasonable, malicious, controlling, aggressive or dominant. And it is described as being a female dog in heat. But female humans are not dogs, so why act like them? Now, I believe they use the term dog in a negative way as a means to denigrate the dog itself. Why? Because it is said the dog is man's best friend for a reason. And perhaps another type of animal wanted to create that distortion. Maybe there is a reason they call it being catty. So how did that come about? The mating of the gods and the females created a genetic alteration which was passed down from generation to generation via the mating. But the sexual union created much more and turned females into the more Draco male dominant aspect, not the human male dominant aspect. Is there evidence of this taking place, hidden in plain sight? Well, I've told you all, the Bible was their story, not ours. And it told you, let us make man in our image and likeness. Are you getting it now? The sexual union planted the seed, and the females were responsible for growing and developing it. And this is what we are seeing here and now. A female archetype very much removed from the original human archetype, and why so many females are acting the way they are. If you are a female who is competing with or against another female in the group or otherwise, do more shadow work. If you are comparative with other females, do more shadow work. You are not created to compete or be comparative with one another. That is the programming. And you have to break the programming down and replant your own seed of growth and compassion in a cooperative way, in your image, not theirs. You have to stop making excuses for your own poor choices and behaviours. Stop acting like predators, singling one another out. And learning to trust each other starts with you. Nobody else, just you. Quit pointing fingers away and point them back. You break the cycle, you break the programming, and what others do or don't is not your concern. Only what you do. And this applies to all females in this group. If you are currently saying now, what about the males? Do more shadow work. That is another deflection away from the self. This programming and demeanour is also destroying the male archetype as well. Gone is the protector warrior type male, and in came the too feminine aspect male due to female dominance and the imbalance of the archetypal roles. This has to be corrected on a wider scale, but we can start the process here and now. Otherwise, our village concept will eventually fall due to the women mistrusting each other, comparing and competitive with each other, and the division and disruption it causes. Some of the females in our group have begun to take on the challenge themselves. In the former Granny Napper group and the self-help group, which I addressed some of this on their call a week or so ago. There will be a joint revocation for all females presented in the self-help group and may be read out in a future show. And this is all about a change of mindset. To have the courage to break the patterns within yourself that no longer serve you. It never did. And this is the classic definition of thinking and acting different.